Welcome to the Broken News. I'm your host, Ed Cavett. Today is October 27th, 2020, the longest year ever. And this week has been pretty long. There's been a lot of stuff go on. It's been short in terms of the amount of time it's taken the Senate to approve the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett. She is now an Associate Supreme Court Justice. And I love how it takes months and months for them to hammer out any real plan or relief for the American people regarding the plague, but then they can just whisk through somebody who's probably going to make life worse for everyone. If it's not her, it'd have been somebody else. The thing about her confirmation, the vote, that was particularly interesting is that no one on the minority voted in favor of her. So 150 plus million Americans have just been disenfranchised by the Supreme Court. We have no representation there. We didn't have a say in that. You know, the Supreme Court's supposed to be appointed by the people, put there by the people. Well, she was put there by half of the people, a little over half. And I'm not comfortable with that margin. I think we need justices that have a nice spread across both sides so that we have a nice round vote, not the sharp edges that we have of a person whose record prior to being an Associate Supreme Court Justice has been objectively hostile toward the working class, towards workers, towards unions. It favors the corporate side of our society because the corporate side has such a powerful voice. And you know how they got that? They got that through the Supreme Court, through Citizens United, through a rollback of the McCain-Feingold. And there was another person too. I had it kind of laid out. But you know, that's another topic, Citizens United. But essentially what Citizens United did was it opened the door for money as speech. And in America, when it comes to democracy, a representative democracy, it's one vote, one person. But that's not how it works, because our vote and that person need to have access in order for that to work. And the only way that you can get access is to form these 5 to 7 super PACs, political action committees, so you can get access to our politicians. Well, those committees are used to get the politicians there. So guess who has the access? The people that put them there. And ordinary citizens are going to have a real hard time competing with that amount of money. Now, we can do it, but it just takes us organizing to do it. We've seen that with the amount of money that was raised with Bernie Sanders in his progressive campaign. And by progressive, I don't think it's progressive to expect that American citizens have a place to live. I mean, it's always been that way. When we had an open frontier of land that we stole from the First Nations, people were just left to go out and settle the land. Pennies on the dollar, just to go, make you a home, make you a life. And that was like manifest destiny. That was your goal. That was your divine providence right there. Now, housing isn't a right. Healthcare isn't a right. Being compassionate toward people only applies to a certain class, and that's property owners, business owners, the professional class, the high upper echelons of the public sector. These people have rights. These people have a voice. Everybody else can skip rocks. And to make matters worse, let's look at this story here. This came out of this week. This is for ProPublica, and it's a story about Arkansas, how they throw people in jail when they're late on their rent. The landlord files a criminal complaint, and then if you don't show up for court, you get a warrant for arrest and you get thrown in jail. And then you get a criminal record. So instead of having housing as a right, you get a criminal record as a right. That's just a way of criminalizing poor people, of criminalizing being poor. Let's look at this. Arkansas is the only state in the country that allows landlords to file criminal rather than civil charges against tenants after they fall behind on rent. Based on a law dating back to 1901, if tenants' rent is due just by one day, they forfeit the right to be in the property. Then if they don't leave their homes within 10 days of getting a notice from their landlords, they can be charged with a misdemeanor. And it's a cruel law, everyone knows it is, but somehow it stays on the books because the will of the people is never expressed through legislation. It's the will of property owners, it's the will of corporatist business owners, and the upper echelons of the political class who are controlled by those who have the most money because they feel like they have the most to lose, so they should have the most to say. The consequences can be pretty dire, as it says here. One woman, this Jocelyn Maley right here, she did have a home, but she fell late in her rent. She got thrown out. And she had to go to court, and she showed up at court with what could have been COVID because she was that scared of getting a criminal record. So here she is in her new home. And you know, a majority of homeless people aren't on public property. They aren't on places where they can be. They're trespassing or they're vagrants. They're in violation of the law just by existing. So being alive is against the law for some people. That's where we're at in this country. Isn't it such a beautiful place that the religious right is done? This is the religious right doing this because they blame this. This person needs to pray more. She needs to tithe more. If she does that, then God will reward her with a home. Otherwise, she's just a bad person. She deserves to be where she's at. That's kind of what we get from a certain class of people in this country. And that class has all the power. They're trust fund pieces of crap, like what we're about to listen to. I'm going to play this video, and you can listen to one of the biggest pieces of crap in the United States right now. And he is just one of many clones that have all the keys. So if you want to know why we're in the shape we're in, it's because the people who are in control don't even know that poor people exist or what it is to be poor or a minority or any oppressed class in the United States. So here we go. Brace yourselves. Here, let's do this first. Let's breathe in through our nose, out through our mouth. Let's do that a few times. Get a good oxygen high, get some endorphins going, and then let's get some shit on our tits.
Issues were needed in the black community for the last years, but particularly it intensified after the George Floyd situation. And you saw a lot of people who were just virtue sick go on Instagram and cry, or they would put a slogan on their jersey or write something on a basketball court. And quite frankly, that was doing more to polarize the country than it was to bring people forward. And one thing we've seen in a lot of the black community, which is mostly Democrat, is that President Trump's policies are the policies that can help people break out of the problems that they're complaining about, but he can't want them to be successful more than they want to be successful. And what you're seeing throughout the country now is a groundswell of support in the black community because they're realizing that all the different bad things that the media and the Democrats have said about President Trump are not true.
That's hard to take. You know someone's out of touch when they're saying stuff like that. And they all get together, I'm going to assume this, just based on the number of people in this particular class set. I've heard them talk, I've seen them talk, not just in recent times, but over my lifetime. This kind of thing gets revealed again and again. And all I can imagine is that somebody like Jared Kushner stands around and says what he says, and they're all smiling and nodding, going, oh yes, that's brilliant. That's exactly right. Like, there's some experts on poor people. In their gated communities and their curated lives, they somehow know what it's like to be poor. Give me a break. Representative democracy. Shit. Nothing's ever been further from the truth when you have people like that pretending they know what anyone outside of their bubble is like. Let's see some other absurdity from this week. So we know the whole Trump thing with 60 Minutes, and he got pissed off because Leslie Saul started the interview with, I'm going to ask you some tough questions, and that was just too tough for President Trump to take. He thought that it was adversarial. Well, hell yeah, you're the President of the United States. You can't take adversaries? Are you that weak? What do you want, softballs? And that's exactly what he wanted. Jeez, what a... just... oh, God. So, in a big theatrical show, he breaks out this book. Do they make these? Is this the Congressional Printing Office here? Do they make these books that are just thousands of blank pages? Because that's what Leslie Stahl got. And she didn't get it to write her memoirs. She got it as Trump's health care plan. A book filled with blank pages. Well, the truth is revealed. I don't think that we've ever had a more unimpeachable revelation of fact than this, because that is Trump's healthcare plan. It is empty pages. This is a kick in the balls. This is absolutely insulting. Come on now. Just come right out. Trump practically does it now, but he may as well. Just come right out and say what contempt he has for the American people. We are a means to an end to this guy, and he cares zero about us. So go ahead, half the country vote for this guy, and then blame everyone else because it's shitty. I blame the people that voted for this guy, and that's half my family. I don't know what to do. I just honestly don't know what to do. I'm at a complete and total loss about today's news. Have I talked about Amy Coney Barrett? Did I talk about that already? I don't know. I've had to record this a couple times because I lost my mind through the first recording and then I messed up through the second one. So I had to try it again. So I can't remember what I've talked about or not, but if I have, then that's a big story. This is the broken news.